Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name's Renee LaValle McKenna, and I bring my 30-plus years as a recovering addict and ex-crazy person turned therapist and shamanic healer to bring you snackable teachings on spirituality, psychology, and all things personal growth. And today I want to talk about the fractal nature of reality, how the microcosm is a model for the macrocosm, and how this information or perspective can be helpful for us on an individual level. And a fractal is basically a never-ending pattern. Fractal patterns are infinitely complex, but they repeat both on a micro level and on a macro level. So some common fractals in nature would be branches of trees, which keep splitting off into smaller and smaller similar circulatory segments, which then split off into leaves, which have their own circulatory system within them of branches and channels. And when we look even deeper, that continues into the cellular level. Lightning or electricity has a fractal nature, with the movement of electrons on a massive scale, like a lightning strike, repeats itself off of the main bolt in smaller and smaller increments. And that similar system of branching with different veins can be seen in geography. If you've ever seen a map with river systems, they get smaller and smaller tributaries. The nervous systems in our body repeat that branching fractal pattern. DNA in our bodies has a fractal nature, that each cell actually holds within it the mapping or coding for the entire system. I am not a biologist or a neurologist, but I absolutely believe that nature is our teacher, and it's becoming clearer and clearer that our own bodies are an excellent map for what's happening in the larger consciousness system. One of the things that's really cool about fractals is that you can look deeply at either the macro or the micro structure and get a pretty good idea of what's happening on these different levels. And I love the metaphor that we as humans, in our relationship with the larger universe, are like cells in a great body. And if we look at the cells in our body, it's estimated that there are about 40 trillion cells in the body of an adult human. Literally unfathomable. And human cells aren't like bricks in a wall. These are living, active organisms that have other living, moving, active organisms within themselves. Moving to the molecular and the atomic level are made up of other dynamic and active structures. And although the level of complexity is likely impossible to grasp, I think it is our work to try because it's helpful and instructive. At least it is for me. And each cell in the body has a particular function. There's approximately 200 different kinds of cells: muscle cells, memory cells, digestive cells, blood cells, immune cells, nerve cells. And there's this amazing interplay of connection, communication, interchange. Construction, deconstruction, nourishing, nursing, defending, rebuilding. It's constantly happening. That each cell in our body is part of a particular system, working together to do their particular job. A single muscle cell won't do much. They organize themselves into sheaths and strands and work together like little families, small businesses that are part of a community, or departments that are part of a larger corporation. Individual units of consciousness in a larger consciousness system. And each cell is in a constant feedback loop, chemically and electronically through the nervous system, through the lymphatic and circulatory system, with each little cell having its needs met for oxygen and nutrients. There's specialized cells to come take out the trash or repair what's dead or dysfunctional. If you cut or bruise yourself, body goes into 911 mode. The ambulance comes, the police. We get inflammation, swelling, nerve cells yelling, "Hey, we got a problem down here," sending pain so that we don't hurt ourselves further. And cells, just like humans, can become dysfunctional. They die. New ones are born. We even have zombie cells called senescent cells, kind of like my first husband. They just lay around on the couch and don't do a lot, but take up space and eat your food, cause some inflammation. And does the muscle cell working as part of a muscle fiber in an arm muscle that's working as part of a larger muscular system that's moving the larger body around, and the body like a cell also participating in a larger system or series of systems, really, work, friends, family, community, culture, country, planet. And does it benefit the muscle cell to understand what the arm is doing, or that it's part of a larger human? It does raise questions of how much control we actually have. And for me, it makes my little fears and anxieties about the future seem kind of silly. David Hawkins, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, reported that later in his life, his thinking function almost ceased, and he was in a state of being. That most of the time his mind was very quiet, unless he had to make a specific decision about something. And he said, more or less, thinking is a waste of time because things are unfolding exactly as they should. We're part of it, we don't control it, and we don't need to worry about it. In fact, the muscle cell can't comprehend the larger body that it belongs to and has virtually no awareness at all of the fractal system that the larger human participates in. And the thing I love about this fractal perspective, or perhaps we could say fractal reality, is that for me, it takes a ton of pressure off and affirms that there is an incredibly intelligent design happening here. I don't need to control it. I just need to participate in it and do the next right thing of what's right in front of me. And although as humans, some of us are more like stem cells, which are the undifferentiated cells that exist in embryos, but also exist in us as adults, that are able to morph into what the body needs. And there may be times or opportunities in our life where we may pivot our role, moving from child to student to worker to parent or partner. Our work may change. Our role with friends and family may change. And our own internal, emotional, spiritual, mental system as humans is very much like that feedback system on a cellular level, that the universe wants to provide the nourishment we need, repair, protection. And for me, spiritual practice, my interaction with others, my awareness of what my own internal feedback loop of pleasure and pain, joy and fulfillment, or despair and distress, those are the signals I send out. And the universe is listening so that I can do my part to participate in my particular function at any given time in this larger body that I'm a part of. And you may be wondering, how does this apply to me, Renee? And I'll tell you that the meta perspective on the fractal nature of reality really allows me to relax and take a chill. That this existential angst that's a pervasive part of our culture, that we better hurry up and fix the environment, change the economic structure, that somehow we need to fix or figure out or control the trajectory of our planet, our species, or even our own individual life, is unnecessary and probably even unhelpful. Now again, we each have a part to play, a job to do, and we can trust our internal drives and desires to be the compass on what kind of cell we are and how to optimize our contribution to the greater whole. This doesn't mean that we don't work for the evolution of our social, political, financial, or environmental systems. Reality as we understand it is expanding and growing in complexity, and so should we. We need to go with the flow. But this fractal perspective calls us to be right-sized, so that we neither have the power nor the capacity to direct the larger fields, forces, or currents of which we are a part. But we are supposed to participate in them. A single nerve or digestive cell does not direct the movements of the larger body. They don't have the capacity, the means, or again, the perspective to be able to do that. We need to be right-sized, do our part, and trust the wisdom of the larger systems. The atom doesn't need to understand the molecule. The molecule doesn't need to understand the cell. The cell doesn't need to understand the body. And we as individual humans do not need to direct or understand the metaverse. Nor do we need to be anxious or afraid about it. That the death and rebirth process is an infinite cycle. Cells will die, bodies will die, planets will die. And that is not a design flaw. But each of these things will be born again in a new formation, a new evolution. And I have come to take the perspective that our role here is not to change the world, but to allow ourselves to be changed by it. And because of the co-creative nature of reality, as we are changed, the world will change. And that it is a much better use of our time, our energy, and our life force to focus on clarifying and optimizing the particular skill set that we bring to the larger system, rather than anxiously look to the future like we're all going to die if we don't do something, because we are all going to die. And it seems to me that that is not the end of the story. I don't know about rebirth, but it seems likely, or at least reformation. And the point is that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, in perfect imperfection, that it is perhaps neither helpful nor possible to understand. So consider what kind of cell you are, how healthy or dysfunctional at any given time. What's your role in working together in these larger structures that are part of your life? And can you accept with peace or even wonder the mystery of where the larger organism is going? And perhaps the infinitely expanding fractal systems of which we are all a part. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, I'd appreciate a good review on whatever platform you listen. Makes the podcast easier for others to find. If you have any topics you'd like to hear about, you can DM me on Instagram at Renee LaValle McKenna. Gathering members for our Shamanic Experience Facebook group, place for community support and practice. If you're already a shamanic practitioner, or if you'd like to explore the powerful and transformative world of shamanism, you can check out our Open Door Growth digital course, Intro to Shamanism, Lower World. There's a link in the show notes. And if you'd like to find out how spiritual psychology might benefit you in your life, or learn about my mentorship program, shoot me an email, info@reneemckenna.com. Thanks as always to my generous supporters on Patreon. Blessings on your path until we meet again. This is Renee LaValle McKenna for Spiritual Psychology.